Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. So sorry that we're running late. Had some technical difficulties. Looks like I'm still crooked, too. Well, I might be just a little crooked tonight. That's all right. Um, so yeah, basically they keep changing things on me, guys. So Ray, Holly, and I get to gabber in before the stream. I'm usually a little bit late anyways, I admit that. Uh-oh, hang on. I got the background music. Here we go. Stop that. All right, here we go. Okay, sorry. See, technical difficulties, right? Anyways,
It only took
we get
6 minutes to sort that out.
Hey, so we get to Gavin, and then we realize, oh God, we're really late now. We got to hurry up. And then I go live, and it's like, oh, now you got to do this, and you need a key for this, and I'm like, ah. But
it needs to update this and that.
We're here now, and that's what matters. So I see Zen, I see Cheryl, I see lots of people. So cool. So Ray, what is the name of the girl that we had on last week that you're helping?
That's Sophie.
Sophie. Okay, because her name Sophie. So her name on Messenger is different. I think Sophie's with us too. I'm not sure, but I will say to Sophie, I have not sent the skimmer yet, only because I've been overwhelmed with. I'm literally leaving for Italy in a week. So it's on my to-do list before I leave for Italy. So it will be shipped out this week, but I didn't want you to be watching the mail and why is it not here yet? I will ship it this week, but I have not yet. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement, and I'm curious to see what you do with it, how you do, what you do with it. So that'll be cool. When I go to the post office, I don't expect you to pay for it. I might ask for shipping, but we'll talk on the side. I'll let you know. Well, I did see your message. I have not responded, but I did see your message. Second thing, I'm wearing my shirt again, guys, right? My Seahorse Whisperer shirt.
I got mine too.
Yep. And I did mail out Shila's. So
and I need the address for Bonnie. I think
you
need to send me Bonnie's address, I think, because I have hers by accident. Remember, you accidentally shipped it to me?
Yep.
I need to send it to her.
I thought I sent it to you, but I will. Remind me after the show, and I will send it out. The only other, I think I had another announcement. It'll come to me, guys, and I'll interrupt and bring it up. But the only other announcement I have is, of course, week before I go to Italy, absolutely sure egg exchange this morning. Absolutely sure, without a doubt. I saw them connect. I saw the exchange occur, and I'm like, are you serious right now? I want fry so bad, but it is not something that I can put on Sean, right? Or put on a house sitter. I can't do that. It's too much work to collect the baby, set up the tank. Even if I had the tank set up and running, to collect them, to hatch the brine shrimp, to do all that stuff, it is work. And when you know what you're doing, it's not that bad, but I can't put that on someone who doesn't really know seahorses and is just feeding them for me while I'm gone. So looking for thoughts about what to do if you can't raise the fry. Because Ray, this is the first question. We'll jump into the rest of the stuff, guys. But Ray, so now I'm going to finally get my batch of fry that I've been waiting forever for. I don't feel comfortable leaving it on someone else because I'll be out of the literal country. Can't help them if I wanted to. Can't fly home on a heartbeat if, for an emergency.
But how long are you staying? They might not be born till you come back if they just had the egg exchange now. Isn't it about 3 weeks?
No, so that's about 17 days.
See, and I'll tell you this, with my seahorses, my previous seahorses, this batch, I don't know. But with my seahorses, it was always like 28 days.
Me too. So it was always about a month.
So this will be curious. Well, you say 17 though, Ray. So
let's the general average for the Reedi and the Erectus. And
okay.
I think the longest I ever had, maybe 20 days.
Really?
Mine were 28, I want to say, like 21 to 28, right in there.
So there is a difference between northern and southern erectus. So maybe that plays a part because I know the northern
I've only had
erectus.
southern erectus.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know. All I'm going to say is my previous seahorses, it was 28 days every time without fail.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
always knew I had about a month to prepare and get ready. In
Yeah,
this
yeah.
case, I am leaving in exactly a week. I'm leaving next Wednesday. Oh, that was the final announcement. We will
Mhm.
not have Wine Wednesday next week. And I apologize for it, but literally, I'm going to be on a plane the entire day getting to Italy. So there's no way I can do it from the plane. So
Mhm.
no Wine Wednesday next week. We will be back the next week, and I will be in Italy, and that's going to be really cool, I hope. But
Mhm.
back to the point is that I will
I'll
be on,
bet you
or
you
no,
won't miss out on your wine though.
what?
I'll bet you don't miss out on your wine on the plane.
Hey, I can have wine on the plane. I just can't have a computer. But anyways, so if they did the egg exchange this morning, and I'm leaving in 7 days exactly, and I'll
Mhm.
be gone for 13 days. So what's that? 20 days. So I might be
20?
back.
Yeah, I
I
think,
might be
yeah,
back.
you have a good chance though. Yeah, I think
So,
so.
but just to deepen the conversation, if someone doesn't want fry, so Ray, in this example, like I know that they would likely end up in the sock, but if you're not gonna be there to remove the sock, I mean, is it just as simple as saying, change out the sock?
Yeah,
I mean,
Mhm.
that's it, right?
yeah.
Well, let's all cross fingers,
I'll be
pray,
honest, the
hope.
alternative is to have
I
somebody.
know I've had ones in the sock that were fine and saved, but if nobody's there to raise them or take care of them,
Right.
then
What were
yeah,
you
the
saying,
other
Ray?
thing would be pop them into a 2-liter bottle and overnight them to somebody who wants to give it a shot.
What were you saying, Ray?
I was just going to say, have them put them in a bottle and fill it up so there's no air in it, and overnight them because they'll do fine.
Mm-hmm.
But there
Well,
has to be no air in the bottle.
gotcha. Right. And what do you mean
And
by
it's
nowhere in the
also to
bottle?
be their first batch, though, so likely, they might not be viable fry anyway,
It's not their first batch. It's not.
Oh, is
This
this the
is
ones that had already bred
yeah.
before?
This is
Oh,
the pair from Macro Lady
yeah.
where they were breeding. They came to
Okay.
me and they
Nice.
haven't bred since, which has been really frustrating. And we've talked in previous episodes about why that
Mhm.
might be, my laziness, care of the tank, whatever. And I have been doing extra maintenance lately just because I'm
Mhm.
preparing for the trip and I want
Yeah,
to make sure nothing goes wrong while I'm gone. So maybe I just got it up to par
you
or,
got
in
it
a better
together. Yeah.
condition, and
Mhm.
now they're like, okay, all right, now we're going to give you, or maybe the little shits are just, knowing that I'm leaving and like, flip you off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
either way, uh, sorry, I'm trying to read comments at the same time. But yeah, no, I kind of wanted to jump into it a little bit just because I'm super excited because
Mhm.
once they do start, at least in my experience, they don't stop
Mhm.
unless you do things to stop them. But for someone who doesn't want fry and your seahorse gets pregnant, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, what you can do in that case.
Mhm.
And I love the idea of sticking them in the bottle. Ray, what did you mean by no air in the bottle? How do you make sure there's no air?
So you fill it right up to the very top and
Okay.
put the top down on it so it's just barely going to allow something out, and you just squeeze the bottle just a little wee tiny bit. So if there any air there, and you squeeze it, then quickly tighten the bottle cap the rest of the way, and
Mhm.
there'll be no air in it.
Okay, I like that. That makes sense to me. Okay, and yeah, I meant to already reach out to Holly. I'm so bad with names. I'm terrible with names. It's Heather. Heather keeps
Mhm.
having fry that she's not interested in raising, and so I keep meaning to reach out to her so she can ship me some. But now I might have my
Mhm.
own. So hey, hey, hey. Um, I
Double
did
the pleasure.
also what?
Double the pleasure. Get hers and yours.
There you go. There you go. Also to Sophie, in your message, you talked about the fact that you do have free Wednesdays lined up, that you can come in and do that newcomer video that we talked about. I will get with you on that too. Like I said, it's just going to be a couple weeks because no Wine Wednesday next week. I'll be on a plane. And then the following week, I'll be in Italy. And I don't want to have a guest because if anything technically goes wrong with me being over there, right? Like I'm paying extra with my phone and with everything to have international coverage, but I don't know how it's going to work. So we're
Yeah.
going to try to pull off Wine Wednesday, but I don't want to have a guest and have it be a disappointing episode. So I'm thinking probably the week after that, but I'll get with you and we'll figure it out on the side. All right. Okay. So what else, guys? I've covered everything I got to cover. Either you, and I know Cheryl wants to come in and do an episode too. Again, same thing as I said to Sophie. But Holly, you said she's doing her rock right
She
now.
started
She's giving us
doing her
updates.
rocks. Yeah,
Okay.
she looked at the episode, I think, where we had dry rock cycling.
Yep.
And then I found my notes way back that episode, and it matched up with, because she was asking me about it, and it matched what she was saying. Oh, yep, that's what you do. So she got them going in their first bleach soak.
Okay, cool.
And then she had some questions about the quick filters, or what they actually call them now, is pre-filters when you're looking for them shopping. And so I, shared some links with her, showed her what I use and that kind of thing, because she's getting together equipment and stuff. She had a couple wave makers that came with the tank, but of course the wave makers, you have to cover them because tails can get hurt, in the open fan part. So I told her I actually like these pre-filters with the power head, because there's nothing for them to get sucked into, but it does the same job. It provides your flow and current, and at the same time gives you some extra filtration.
So I do want to say too that if you have wave makers, if you've got a bigger tank and you're using wave makers, I think I've got a video out there. I don't know. I may have never made it. I'm not sure, but I've got the video footage to make the video. I'll try to look into it, guys, but give me a couple weeks. But anyways, it's very easy to use the plastic mesh that, like, for knitting, to cover the sides of wave makers. That's what I did in my bigger tanks.
I used mine. I used that. What I didn't like was algae and stuff. I'd have to take them off and clean them and all that. And I just found that not having to do all that was just easier.
So again, it's not really, there's no argument. I'm just saying, if what you have is wave makers, if what you prefer is wave makers, the wave makers usually don't have the part that comes down to attach a pre-filter or a quick filter, right? So it's just this round thing that's, got a cord coming out, and then you've got your controller on the outside. So
whose phone is ringing?
Mine. Sorry, everybody keeps calling me. But as I was saying, what I did, because I like wave makers, right? I prefer them over power heads, is I did use the mesh netting, and I would just use zip ties to make sure that the sides were covered. I literally have a picture somewhere online, on Facebook for sure, that I posted showing the Seahorse literally attached. He was hitched with his tail to the cord of the wave maker.
Yep.
He was laying on the mesh, netting, and had his head in the flow going bub up, bub up, bub up, bub up.
Yeah.
And I posted it. I think I put it on TikTok too. And it was just meant, like, oh, how funny. And everybody jumped me. And they were like, "You're an abuser, and this is awful." And I was like,
they like it.
No, he's there because he wants to be.
Right.
He's not stuck.
They have
got
freedom
his face
of
in the
choice.
flow. So anyways, all I'm saying is, if you do have wave makers, and you prefer them to power heads, there are
Yeah.
alternatives. And
Mhm.
like Holly was saying, she's not wrong. Algae used to grow on the mesh netting for sure. But
Mhm.
just like you have to clean your equipment, like it would be growing on the power head or the wave maker or whatever. And
Mhm.
so I would just remove them, clean them.
Mhm.
It's almost like, because it's the same screen you would use for an algae scrubber. So obviously, yes, it's going to grow algae likely. So you
Mhm.
just have to clean it, which is a pain, but you have to clean the quick filters too, right?
Yeah, but they're easier. The equipment's easier to deal with, I found, than my wave makers were.
So with a power head though, here's why I prefer wave makers. The
Mhm.
two reasons. Number one, the controller, just right off the bat, because
Mhm.
with the wave makers, you can not just set
Mhm.
the equipment where you think it would be best, but then
Mhm.
if it's not best, you can adjust the flow, right? You can either turn the flow up or down, and then you can also make it do different cycles of waves.
The
I really
power
like that.
head
Hang on, hang
will
on,
have
hang on,
that
hang on.
too,
Holly, let
depending
me
on the
finish.
one you get.
Let me finish. So first of all, that, and then second of all is, oh God, now see, you made me forget. Damn it. It's the controller. And I guess the second thing was just the fact that it provides more flow and more options, right? Maybe
Mhm.
I think you were getting ready to say that the power heads can do that now. Every power head I've ever owned
Mhm.
is like a straight shot of flow, and that's it.
Yeah, mine have adjust. I think it really depends on the equipment you get
Okay,
because
talk about that for a second. I gotta answer this. I'm sorry. I'm right here.
okay,
Talk about it.
because my wave makers were not adjustable other than the direction. You couldn't control the flow, but you could control the direction they went. Whereas I have one power head where I can completely control the flow on it, and one of them where I can't, but I can control the direction. So I think both kinds of equipment come in multiple ways, and you just have to figure out, what's best for your purposes. And what I've always liked about the power heads is you can attach stuff to them. Like I have filters attached to my power heads so that I'm getting extra filtration out of it, and I don't have to cover them because there's nothing to cover. The
Okay.
intake is a filter, and
So
it has
so
then screws, and then there's sponges inside. I have two different kinds actually, because like I said, both the wave makers and the power heads and pre-filters, they all come in different ways and different
sure,
things they can do.
sure.
So even the power heads and pre-filters I have, each tank has a different kind, but I find them easier to deal with than the wave makers that I had. Plus they've got extra stuff on them, and my wave makers weren't controllable. You
Ah,
could control where they pointed, but I couldn't control flow or any of that. And then the stuff that I put over it, the mesh or whatever, would fall off in some areas, and you're like, oh crap, a tail can fit in there, or a nose or whatever. And they were just harder for me to deal with, but it may have just been the brand that I got.
so
Yeah,
again, guys, what you're hearing is
choice.
differences in opinion,
Hmm.
and that you can go either way, right?
Hmm.
So with the wave makers, if you're a wave maker person, because I get the cheap ones, I get the Jabeo, but I
Hmm.
just freaking love them. I mean, in
Hmm.
my biggest tank, I had one of the oh God, I'm so bad with names, you guys, you know that, but one of the long ones
Hmm.
that really have different options, like it
Hmm.
moves and it puts the flow up and down and all around, and it's really cool. But that wouldn't work for a smaller tank. I'll try to remember the name. Or if you're out, if any of you out there know what I'm talking about,
Hmm.
the long ones that I want to say it has something to do with that. I'll look it up in a minute and try to know what I'm talking about before I say it. But in my smaller tanks or my regular tanks, I would always use the Jabeo controllable power heads. Holly prefers the power heads with quick filter, or the type, I do have one in the 40-gallon all-in-one where it's like what she's talking about. It's a power head, but it's also got like a box at the bottom that has sponge and
Yeah, like
whatever and
little
different medias.
canister full of stuff.
Those are good for smaller tanks. So there's different options. There's different ways to deal with each one to make sure that your seahorses don't get hurt. And it just depends on what's easiest for you. And every method can work depending on what you want to do, I guess is the point. And Ray got his dinner apparently. But Ray, the quick filters, when we say quick filter or pre-filter, what you're saying is you're talking about the power heads that have the little part at the bottom that sticks down, right? And
Yep.
you stick the pre-filter on it, and it's a sponge, and it basically stops, or it basically pre-filters so nothing gets.
Well, it's not a sponge, but the ones that I use, the Hagen ones,
Okay.
there's a plastic piece that fits inside that you can load carbon in it or something like that if you want, or uh, any other kind of media. But I never ever use that. I wrap the filter pads they're kitchen pads, I think, kitchen scrub pads maybe.
That's what I use too in one of mine. After Ray shared that with me, that's what I do.
Wrap two of them around the centerpiece and then shove it all into the casing, and the casing's all slotted and the water goes through it and it wrapped it. And you just take it out, throw another one on, and then you go down the laundry tub when you got time, and you take hose and also, and you blast it with the jet stream, and it washes all the crap out of it. Put it together, let it
Gotcha.
dry, and it's ready for the next time.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things that I was saying when you left, Ray, is the reason I don't like power heads. Like, I love the quick filter and the pre-filter and all that. I do have a contraption like Holly described where I'll try to grab it here in a minute. I could probably pull it out of the tank, but where it's literally like a power head with a box at the bottom that contains different levels, or it's like a internal filter kind of deal. But the reason that I don't like that or the power heads is because of the lack of options when it comes to controlling the flow. So like power heads point one direction and that's where the flow's going. I like the different
Mine
wave
don't.
makers. Okay.
Mine have an adjustment, an arm, so you can adjust it almost like the
No. Okay.
turn nozzle.
Right. But you can adjust it and then that's where the flow goes. I'm talking about the wave makers move.
Where it changes yeah, mine did that too. I didn't like that though in my tank because it would move where I didn't want it to blow and blow stuff,
Well, that depends on your setting, right? I mean,
yeah, it's all
I
different,
love it.
but yeah, there's all kinds of different options. So it kind of depends on what you want, but I think they're all good. It's just finding what works best for you.
Yeah, for sure. And Ray, I'll copy and paste the thing you just.
That's what I use, is what Ray just pasted.
The picture shows it squat. I don't know whether they're making them shorter now or whether the picture makes them like that, but the ones that I have are a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I noticed that on Amazon because I was sharing with Cheryl, and the attachment, the pre-filter attachment, looks shorter than the one that I have, and a different shape. Like it's almost like a roundish triangle, whereas mine is completely round. So they might be kind of making them a little different maybe now. I don't know.
Okay, hang on. I'm pulling this stuff up so we can show what we're talking about.
Maybe they're trying to keep me from using the pads.
Those pads, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I use those too. I go to the dollar store and get them, and yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me share real quick here so people know what we're talking about. All right, first off, sorry.
And then my other one has sponges in it. Yeah, that one.
Okay, so this is the quick filter that Ray keeps talking about, and
Yes.
this would attach to a power head, like
Yeah, and there's a
so.
power head, yeah, that it goes to, and you just pop it on there. But they
And what
used to
I'm
make them long and round, and yeah, now like Ray says, when I pulled it up too, I'm like, oh, well, it's not the same shape as the one I have, but it's the same idea.
right, but my point is what I was saying. Just my preference. Again, guys, this is all about preferences. No way's wrong, but I love the quick filter. I love that.
Mhm.
I don't like the power head because if you look at this is where the flow comes out and
Mhm.
it's going right there. That's it. That's where it's going. As Holly mentioned, you can get different power heads, but I mean now these are all wave makers, right? Like I don't know,
Yeah, my other one, see, looks like that, so you can adjust it.
but that's still not adjustment. It's pointing the flow in a different direction. But when
Yeah.
I talk about a wave maker, I'm talking about a Jabeo that literally, I wish I could pull up a video, but basically, if you're looking at, say, this one, um, as you're looking at it, what I'm trying to say is it when you use the controller to control it, it will literally move up and down and do different cycles of flow depending on how you set it. So, like Holly said, you have to make sure it's not going to point somewhere you don't want it to, but it's taken care of. Like
And
we
mine
always,
didn't come with a controller. You adjusted it by hand to where you wanted it to go when I my
well,
wave makers.
I don't know any wave makers that don't have a controller now, but maybe there are. There probably are. So make sure you get one with a controller if you do. But Jabeo is what I always went with. It always worked for me. And in that case, it's we always talk about make sure there's no uneaten food. Make sure you're removing all the detritus. Make sure you have the flow set really strong so that it's pushing everything up so that it's being pulled into the filtration. With that, with a wave maker, it's
Mhm.
it's not just pointing in one spot, right?
Mhm.
It's going, hey, I want the flow everywhere to get up to there.
Mhm.
And yes, I still used gorgonians and rock and everything like that to create spots that were less flow, just so the seahorses had a choice. But I liked that it
Mhm.
was providing flow all over, not just
Mhm.
in one direction. Just my thoughts.
Mhm.
And I see Fish Fam link. Hey, make sure you check out those links because not only can you learn more about this channel, but all the other really cool Aquarius and channels in the Fish Fam family.
Mhm.
Make sure that you go check out their links. The other thing I would say is, as we're talking about all this quick filter powerhead versus wave maker, as we're having this discussion, I just do want to pull in the Robert King chamber. And for to be clear, the Robert King chamber is just like the powerhead that I'm going to go pull and show you, where it's got methods of filtration as you build up to the top. But the difference is the Robert King chamber is bubbles, right?
Mhm.
Versus real flow. So the Robert King chamber wouldn't work in replacement of a power head, but it has many other benefits that make it a good addition to a tank. And we're going to have Robert King back in here. You can go watch the videos where he's been in before, but we're going to have him back in here to talk about it. But anyways, back to the point. If you want to talk about it further, Holly, I can go grab mine to show them what we're
Oh, and
talking about.
that Hagen, the AquaClear powerhead. See, that's the one I use in my 55-gallon, and that one you can actually. It's got two different um, control switches on it, to where you can increase or decrease the flow by sliding it as to how hard it blows the water,
And
which
you
is
can
kind of,
also change the direction so it'll take it in the output tube and out.
yeah, you can reverse it. You can reverse the flow too and make
And
it go the
also
other direction. That's right.
there's a diffuser that clips onto the output tube, so you can turn
You can
around
aim it.
and make
Mhm.
the flow go wherever you want.
Yeah, yeah. And I took mine off because I don't use it for that. But yeah, my other one in the other tank, yeah, it's got that thing where you can direct it wherever you want. but I don't use that in the 55 gallon. But yeah, it has an attachment for that. That's a good point because yeah, it did come with that. But it doesn't show it in the picture, so it makes it look like it just blows straight, but actually you can put an attachment on to make it blow wherever you want.
But it turns the output section will turn on the body of the power head. It'll turn around completely all the way around. So
Exactly. Yeah, I forgot
never
about that because I never use it that way. But yeah, you can completely reverse the flow.
So I never found that I really needed the diffuser because I was able to just turn that and have the flow going wherever I wanted.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want it going downward so much. Uh, I wanted it to go across the aquarium, hit the side, then go down and make the flow, bring the food off the bottom. That if I used the diffuser, if I recall when I first started it, it made it go down too soon. So the flow was going down right at the end of the diffuser rather than going across the glass and go down to get a circular motion going.
Yeah, yeah. It is. You got to play with it to get it to where you want it. I remember that when I was setting mine up. Because when I first put it in, it was blowing everything and everybody away. I had to turn it down a little bit in the 55 gallon.
Coral, the power heads that Hagen makes are reversible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to look it up because I'll tell you guys, I just tried to pull it out of the tank. I'm not pulling it out of the tank. It just kept dripping. It was, there was no way.
No, it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, I'm not pulling anything out of my tank.
Yeah. So
I already did that today. I did my queening. It's queening water change day.
what?
So I already been all through that.
Hey guys, if you have any questions, tonight is going to be a short night, so ask away, even if it's not what we're talking about. I'm trying to find this. Like, I know I ordered it on Amazon, I think. Let me see if I can find it to show you a picture of it. Yeah, no, probably not. I order too much on Amazon. Let's see. 2024. All right. I'm trying to find it, guys.
I've got three orders presently with them.
You got what?
I've got 3 orders on the go right now with them. Supposed to come by Sunday.
Yeah, I did ordered something today. Not for the Seahorses, for me.
Right. Hey. All right. I'm just going to look it up a different way. Okay. Internal filter. All right. So it's something like, mine is something like, why can't I find anything that looks like it? It's so frustrating. Okay. All right. This is it. All right. So this is what is in my, 40 gallon. This right here. I don't know how to make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this right here. 20 bucks.
Yeah.
Nothing, has 2 flow outputs.
Yeah.
And then has the sponge,
Your
carbon sponge. Yeah. And different methods of filtration. And I don't really count on those as like any real filtration, at least in my tanks, because I use K1, I use rock, I use socks, and I use skimmer. But I mean, anything added is good. Just like the Robert King chamber, I'm not counting on that like as being some huge method of filtration. It's just added, right? Anything
they
added.
just help. And any kind of physical filtration, I think you can add, like those pre-filters are good. I think.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I like that too. And it does a good job of drawing the stuff to it so that I can siphon it out.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it does a great job of actually intaking uneaten food itself, but at least pulls it closer to that direction where things come all together and I can see them and vacuum them up.
Well, and I hate to keep repeating myself, but I just want to make sure anybody new to keeping tanks really does understand what I'm talking about. Because what Ray and Holly are saying are absolutely true. Power heads are adjustable. You can move them this way, you can move them that way, you can move them this way, and then the flow will go that way. But with wave makers, they move on their own. You set them and then they
Yeah.
move and they flow everywhere. That's why I love them. I just wanted to say it one more time, just to be clear. But anyways, 'cause I can't believe anybody doesn't love them. They're amazing.
Now,
But
mine were a pain, but I probably just didn't have good ones. Because, like I said, mine you couldn't control. You had to put them in and set them. And they're like, okay, I don't like where it's blowing. They weren't like remote control or anything. I had to actually stick my hand in and aim them, just like I do with the
well,
power
then
head. So
right,
that
then that's
probably
just the
made
same
a
as a
huge
power head.
difference. They were just a pain, and all the cords going everywhere. And now if they were like, I didn't even have the magnetic kind. I had suction cup one, and I guess they come in magnetic, and you were saying you have a remote control so you can control everything. Mine were not like that. But if they made like wireless and all remote control and all that, that could be cool.
So they do. And I never had the wireless, but they do make them now. And I
That'd
will
be
tell you
sweet.
I'll tell you a quick story. Before I got into the Jabeo wave makers that are a little more expensive, guys, but again, you can set them with remote and they move on their own. There's a
That's
feed
cool.
option where you turn it off and you don't have to pull it out or unplug anything. It gives you 10 minutes. And there's all these cool things. And there's different levels of flow. Like you can raise it, you can lower it, you can make it move this way, that way, whatever way, without ever putting your hand in the tank. That's why I love them. But before I got into them, in my reef tank, I tried one of those suction cup wave makers that were just like it was a power head.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
what I
flow
hated
went that way.
about it.
And
This weren't good.
I can tell you that I had sand in my reef, and one day the suction failed to work, and I came home to this powerhead wave maker, whatever you want to call it, in the sand, and sand everywhere. I mean, don't do the suction cup.
Uh,
Don't do the suction cup. It's not worth it. It never lasts. No, don't do it.
You mean like in
But
Florida where they rebuilt the beaches and now the beaches are in the town?
yeah, something like that. Something like that. Uh, And Ray, I will say, because you said you have lots of power heads that are over 30 years old, how many wave makers will last that long? I will totally agree that nothing lasts that long anymore. They make things to
No.
be replaced, right? They want you to buy new for sure.
They
And
still sell
you know,
that same Hagen power head. They just put a different
I
name
was
on it.
gonna say, I think I have a power head back from the 1980s that still works, but I'm not using it now. It's in my box of equipment because it's just not. It wasn't what I wanted to use in this tank,
I've
but
had
I'm
to buy
pretty
some
sure it still
impellers
works.
for it. I've bought some impellers over the years to replace ones that go,
Uh
but
huh.
you know, the darn things just keep on going.
Hmm.
well, that's part of it though, is that I can't tell you how many wave makers, power heads, all of the rest that I replaced before I even realized that you could buy a part and fix it. Like I
Hmm.
would know that it was the impeller, but I didn't. I just thought I had to buy a new one. I know, call me naive, whatever, but that's a learning experience for someone new that doesn't, it just seems broke. It doesn't work anymore. It's not going. You don't know. Oh, I can buy a $20 impeller instead of a new $60 power head or wave maker or whatever. I did want to say too, Fish Fam Link said join as a channel member for exclusive benefits. First of all, like we've done for Cheryl, if you're a member, then we can easily set up like a chat just for you. If you are setting up for Seahorses and need, private help and don't want to go in the group and ask the questions there, you also get an amazing shirt. Seahorse Whisperer. Sure, you probably can't see it very well, but I will say too to Zen Ginger, I washed mine and it shrank, and I was really angry. So if you become a member and I ask you your shirt size, go a size up because they do shrink just a little bit when you wash and dry them. And I will be going with a different brand for next year's member shirts. I just wanted to get that out there. And so Sophie, all your power heads come from Ray. They worked for him for years, and they'll probably last you years. So just do the quick filters and you're set. I'm not ever trying to say, oh, you got to get wave makers. That's not it. I'm just telling you what I like. Holly will tell you what she likes. All of the advice is good. But Ray, did you have something to say or no?
No, I'm typing.
Okay, Ray's distracted. All right. You guys,
Okay.
as I said, next week, No Wine Wednesday, I'm on a plane. The week after that, I'll probably have either Sophie or Cheryl. I don't want to do both of them at the same time because for the new member videos, like I feel like it would be better because they want different things in their tanks. So I think it'd be good because after the episode, I can do tags and label it like, this is if you want a really sterile tank and you're just focused on seahorses. Whereas this is if you want a more natural tank and you're, willing to take a little risk to have that natural biosphere or whatever, bio setup. And then anybody who needs that information can go to either of those episodes. So I don't want to do them together, but that's what's coming up most soon. That's not the word. Soonest. And then also we're going to have Robert King back in to talk about the chambers again. But any episode, if you have questions, ask them, because even if it's not on topic, we will get to it for sure. Cora Works wanted to know, have any of y'all played with the external drive mag drive wave makers, where the motor is outside the tank and the impeller is inside the glass held by magnets? No power cord in the tank.
That's what I'm talking about. No.
Ooh.
But I might like them better if I had something like that.
Let me look it up. Mag drive. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, so you got your motor and everything dry on the outside and only the fan part, the blower parts in the tank, sounds like. And it's magnetized.
I can't even find it.
Wires anywhere.
I can't even find it. Give me a better word for it, because I'm not finding it on Google.
Or share the link. Yeah, share the link of where to get them so we can look at them. What it is exactly, because it sounds awesome. But I don't go that fancy. I'm like Ray. Most of the stuff in my tanks are do-it-yourself or cheap.
Well, and I will show.
That's why, like I said, I didn't like my wave makers. It's because they were crap. It's not because wave makers aren't a good thing. I think it was just because mine were crap.
Well, and I'll show you guys really quick. This is what I was talking about earlier. Now, you wouldn't be able to use this. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. You wouldn't be able to use these in a smaller tank. They're just too strong. But this is what I was talking about that I used in my 90-gallon with the adolescents. I think it was the original one was called like Ice Cap or something. I don't know. But it's the wave maker that literally has flow coming out here, and this thing turns. So it literally covers the whole tank. Let's see.
Oh, wow.
So see, it moves there, moves there.
What's the output?
It depends on which one you buy. But I will tell
them in different.
Like these power heads that I have, each one's 400 gallons.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy them at different strengths. Okay,
you
different
choose,
gallon per hour.
Different choices. Vortec is what Toro Works says they're called. Vortec.
Okay, hang on.
So Google that.
Vortec, and it's a what? It's a external drive. Okay, Vortec. External drive. Powerhead. So when I Google that, this is what I get, just for the record. I keep going to the wrong thing. Sorry. I'll find it. This. Like Ecotech Marine. That's not, I don't think that's what
Oh,
you're
there's a
talking about.
Vortec on the end, to the far right for $900 almost. Is that, am I seeing that right? 879.
Yeah.
Woo!
Jesus.
Let's take a look at that.
All
Yeah,
right.
why is it
We're
800 bucks?
opening it. Uh-huh.
I think that's more than my whole setup altogether.
Look
Right?
how many seahorses I could buy for
Oh,
the price
look
of
at
that.
that. That's
Okay.
for
Okay.
when you win the lottery or something.
Right. So
Oh, there's a video
wireless
for it.
programming. All right. I think we'd get in trouble with YouTube if I play the video. You guys can Google it
Oh,
yourself.
yeah.
But I mean,
Wow.
I mean, it does say no need for additional equipment
Connect
to get wireless
directly to your
programming.
phone. Yeah.
Yep. If you're willing to pay $900. So
Oh,
I would
geez.
just,
Shocked the hell out of her. She disappeared.
I'd buy another tank if I had $900, or hire somebody to take care of mine. Whew. Wow.
that's what happens when you click the wrong X. Whoops. I turned you guys off instead of the link. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I have
You were
not
just
messed
too
with that.
excited by that
I
$900 wave maker.
I know it.
That's
Guy
for
Reed. Oh,
the Marist who has everything.
right. And I would say thank you, Cora Works, Guy Reed. That's it. And I'm probably still pronouncing it wrong. But GYRE. That's the name of the long. But I wouldn't use that in a smaller tank. You got to have a bigger tank for that to work. I'd say, like, I wouldn't put it in my 40-gallon all-in-one. It'd be too strong. So you got to have a much bigger tank, like 55 and up is what I would say. Your thoughts, Cora Works, please. But you said the $400 ones are name brand too. They're just equivalent to a $70 wave maker. Yeah. So I'm not as DIY as Ray or even Holly, because she has her husband. I don't like DIY because I usually screw it up and it's just a lot of work, and I don't have that it's just not my forte.
That's why
So I'd
Scott
rather
does my
pay for it.
DIY.
Right. But I'd rather just pay for it, but not like that, right?
Not
So
like $900.
as we talk about a good skimmer, invest in it. Invest in it because a good skimmer will make a difference in your tank. Yes, a good wave maker or powerhead will make a difference, but you don't have to spend $400. Is yeah. Am I shopping for a new man with DIY? Yeah, Ray, you coming to the Americas? No. I'm just kidding. Anyways, yeah. And again, guys, we focused in on wave makers today. Who knows what we'll be chatting about? Not next week, but the week after that. Well, actually, yeah, no, the week after that when I'm in Italy. But we're open to any topic, any question you guys have. It's just if we don't have a question prior to starting the show, or we don't advertise a topic or a guest, then the conversation just flows. We're a community. That's what we do, right? We're just here for each other and trying to help you guys and trying to help each other. Listen, I it's my channel, and I'm the one sitting here asking you guys questions about certain things. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what it's all about.
Ooh,
Oh, wait, real quick.
so let me forget something.
I won't, but this will take 10 seconds. I just wanted to say I paid to up the hosting for the website. Don't go look at it yet because it looks like a blank nothing. Because I literally have to upload the site that I've worked on at home, but I am getting in the process of doing that. So you will not be able to buy the member shirts because those are exclusively for members, but there will be shirts, there will be articles, there will be information. And once I get it running, then we'll work on some of the stuff that Ray and I have talked about over the years about databases and etc. Hopefully to just make this community stronger and have a place where we can, come together. All right, go ahead, Holly.
So I talked about some Halloween stuff,
Oh yeah.
decor for the tanks a while back, and I think I shared I got a ghost that lights up and makes bubbles in the tank from PetSmart. Don't buy it. My reviews,
Okay.
don't buy it. I had to return mine. It worked less than a day. The bubbles worked fine,
Aw.
but the light stopped working. And I pulled it out of the tank and it was starting to corrode.
Oh my God.
And I checked on the website for PetSmart because I was looking for, how long I could return it because I didn't put it in the tank till 2 months after I bought it. So I'm like, oh, they're probably not even going to take it back now because I bought it during the summer. But it was a Halloween thing. So I just put it in the tank. But anyway, when I went to the site, there were all these reviews on it. So I clicked to see what the reviews are. Everybody said the same thing, worked less than 24 hours. So it has some kind of a defect. Thankfully, though, they did take it back and they gave me store credit for it, even though it was past the 2 months. So,
yeah.
But don't get it unless you just want bubbles, I guess. But still the corrosion part, I guess, because the electric is a part of it. So
anything that lights up in a tank kind of makes me nervous.
But I've had light up stuff in my tanks for years with no problem. So I think it just depends on the thing.
Yeah, maybe.
And some are good and some are bad. Well, that one was bad. I mean, I've had ones with my volcanoes for years that I've had no problem with. So there you go. Just watch stuff and don't
read the reviews.
Don't get that one. Yeah, and read the reviews.
And Fish Fam Links, I need to get better about using the super stickers, super chats, and really advertising it. I'm trying to get stuff in order. Listen, this is my goal. When I get back from Italy, this channel is going to blow up because I'm going to get serious. I'm going to get the site done. I'm going to, do these types of things. It's time in the day, you guys. It's time in the day. I don't have enough of it.
They are.
Well, Ray, you just wait because I'm going to teach you. Once, let me get through my trip. And then when I get back, we'll get serious about, turning this into a real channel and turning the site into a working masterpiece instead of just my dream. But yes, thank you, Fish Fam Link, for always coming and supporting and sharing ways for people to support for sure. And we'll share more about that in the coming weeks. But for tonight, what else, guys? Because I do have to make it shorter tonight. Time in the day, guys. I got so much going on. And don't forget, we're going to have the new people episode coming up in a couple of weeks. So there's something to look forward to. But is there anything else for tonight?
Sadie's tail bubble healed. Remember I told you?
Yes.
Yeah, she's fine again now.
Really? That's so amazing. That's so incredible to me. Like, and I just go back and watch last week if you don't know what we're talking about. But it's pretty incredible because I remember when my seahorses got tail bubbles, and it was always the males, which is something different. But I would instantly freak out and, start throwing medicines at them, start doing this, that, and the other, yada, yada, yada. And Holly has literally proven that just improving water quality and, doing a little more maintenance,
I'm like,
they can get better.
Causing, and the thing is, she's had him before. She goes off and on with them, and I can kind of tell, like, okay, Sadie's getting a tail bubble. I need to find out, what's the cause, what's getting trapped in here, what's causing a water quality issue, and then correct that, do the water change and stuff, and she's she heals on her own. But
That's
not
crazy.
all of them do. I think
Right.
she's got a strong. The weird thing is, Dandy has never had any of those problems, but he's handicapped. He's
Yeah.
outlived all kinds of other seahorses that seemed healthier than him. So I don't know. Who
It's
knows?
insane. It's
He is
insane.
he is slowing down. He's not. He's active intermittently, but most of the time it's kind of like he's lazy. He doesn't want to come to eat really if it's too much out of his way. He's gotten to the point where, like, I want him to eat at least 2 meals a day.
Hmm.
So I will carry him. I'll roust him. If he's not coming to eat, I'll carry him halfway across the tank, and he knows. Like,
She's taking me to eat.
I'll gather him up, and I'll, with my arm in the tank, I'll move him through the tank and point him in the direction he needs to go to his dish. And he's like, okay, I'm going. And then he swims the rest of the way there and pouts for a minute and then turns around
That's
to
so
face his
funny.
dish and eat. But I feel like he's kind of like an old man who just feels like life is just too much work anymore.
Yeah.
he's he's like oh darn it, do I really want to go to breakfast? Can I just sit?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Ray,
Yep.
I did have one more question for you. Just something that I was thinking about, like
Are
kind of
you
from the.
expecting an answer?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, okay.
You've talked about a lot how carbon can not be a replacement, but be something if you don't have a skimmer, and can do a lot of good things for a tank.
Yeah.
Is there a specific brand that you recommend? Is because all carbon is not the same, right?
I think there's different qualities. I usually just buy a top brand. I couldn't even tell you what brands that I've bought, but I've used
Okay,
different ones, and I've never noticed a difference. But then again, I never buy any of the cheapy stuff.
gotcha. And also with carbon, um, it does expire, right? We've talked about that if you leave it too long, it can possibly stop working. Obviously, you would see
It'll
the
stop working first, and then a few weeks after that, it'll start releasing
leaching.
the chemicals back, the compounds back into the water.
So, is there a time frame for using carbon?
Uh, there probably is, but I think there are so many variables you have to consider, and
How dirty the tank is? Yeah.
I think it
all the
says
tanks that I
on
had,
the container. I have one that says on it. I
Okay.
think
Well, wait. Let's let Ray finish. Go ahead, Ray.
it's like many other things. How are you going to tell somebody that you have to change it after so many hours or so many days or so many weeks when this one here has water that's a lot dirtier, or I'm feeding
yeah.
it, another one's feeding far less and it's going to last longer, or somebody else has got more equipment. Like there's so many variables in there that you just sort of have to play it by ear. I don't think I set any specific time other than I know I had some tanks that were dirtier than others, and I would change it more often in those ones. Uh,
Gotcha.
Mainly because some of my seahorses were just a dirtier feeder, and they emitted a lot more cloud than any of the others. Um,
And when Ray says cloud, he's talking about, if you've not seen a seahorse eat, I've got plenty of videos out there about it on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. But basically, when a seahorse snicks food, you'll notice right after they snick it, poof, a cloud comes out of their gill covering or whatever. And it's literally pieces and particles of the food
well,
that are.
I have to jump on this here.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Not all seahorses make it visible.
Okay.
Some of its particulate matter comes out so fine and in smaller amounts that
You don't see
you
it.
don't really see it. And then
Gotcha.
there's others that they can snick a little piece, and I think half of it they put out through the gills.
Do you
So
think those seahorses have to eat more?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would love for a scientific study on that because yeah, all my seahorses have always been big poofers, but I feed a lot. So maybe they just know that they don't, have to digest as much. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure, to be honest, why it happens. Do you know, Ray, why that happens?
Well, it's a process when they snick the food inside before it goes into their di- digestive tract. They masticate the food, and in this mastication process, this fine particulate matter gets expelled through the gills.
So is it like the parts they don't want, or
It's
like
like,
less?
it's like um, they don't have teeth there to chew up the food, but
Sure.
whatever it is, they're masticating it by, I think it's pressure in the throat, and that's mushing it up type of thing. And so
It's
it's much
like a
like if
hammer, a trigger action. It
yeah,
smashes it and then it goes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
but
That makes sense.
it's a replacement for the teeth to make it so it's easier to go down the digestive tract.
Oh
But
my gosh. I so wish my seahorses had teeth. That'd be so freaking cool. But go ahead. Anyway, sorry. Totally left field. But yeah, no, that makes sense. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify because, the puff of smoke that we talk about or whatever, it's literally particles of the food getting released into the tank. So every time you feed the seahorses, it's not just their poo that you got to worry about or uneaten food. It's the fact that they're,
Polluting
especially if
the
they're
water
heavy blowers or whatever, heavy poofers, then,
and because it's so small, it's the first stuff to degrade and increase your
yep,
dissolved organics.
yep. So it's
And
it's like a
your
crapshoot.
snails and crabs aren't eating that.
Right. The more like right, exactly good point. The crabs and everything, your cleanup crew, whatever, will eat the uneaten pieces of food, peppermint shrimp, etc. But they're not going to eat that fine particulate matter that the seahorses are blowing out their wazoos, right? So you just have to keep that in mind is the entire point. I do want to get to Zen's question, but Holly, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I was
I
saying, I think about the eating. I think I was all I was going to say is seahorses are messy eaters in general. Like mine will spit stuff out. They'll suck stuff up. They'll spit stuff out. They're picky. They want this piece and not this other piece over here. And then they flutter their little fins, and food goes
food goes
everywhere.
everywhere.
And Dandy, especially, I feel sorry for him because he's being handicapped, so he can't swim right. So he'll like fall into his dish, and then he's trying to get out. So his little fins are going, and food's all over the tank. And Sadie's watching him like, "What are you doing?" Then she grabs a bite and spits it out and takes another one. They're very messy little guys. Mine
Sure,
are
sure.
anyway.
Well, I think the thing you were going to say, though, earlier is that the box that you buy, when you buy carbon, the box literally will tell you
Oh, yeah, they have
when it expires. So,
recommendations on it.
so I do know that I have a box of carbon here, and the brand that I bought, I don't even know. But bottom line is, I think it said 2 to 3 months. So it's not something you have to worry about every week or whatever. But just keep in mind if you're going
The
to use
problem
carbon
is
in your
you
tank.
forget about it. I've done that where you put it in a bag, throw it in the sump, and then like later you see it and you go, "What's this? What I do?"
Right.
So you'll
Well,
write
set
it
yourself
down and remember it.
now. Hey, now we have Alexa, we have Siri, we have calendars, set reminders, or have
I gotta
a
write
journal.
it down. Yeah, I gotta
Sure.
write it and look
No,
at the
I
calendar.
don't even have a
Oh,
smartphone.
Well, Ray, but you are a smartphone. Okay. Zen Ginger wants to know one question I would like to know is what everyone would allot to what space in a sump. For planning, if I'm doing a 75 with a 60-gallon sump and 2 to 4 ponies, what would everyone include in the sump? Who wants to
I
go first?
I'll go for what I have. I like to keep the skimmer. I think is the most important thing to me. I have a filter sock, my protein skimmer, and my biofilter is in the sump, because like we've talked about before, I pull all my artificial decor and it goes to the bleach bucket sometimes. So I don't rely on anything inside of the tank for biofiltration. It's all in my sump. And different people set it up different ways. Like if you have rock in your tank instead of your sump, or both, that's a setup people have. But my sump is pretty simple. I've just got my filter sock, the skimmer, and my biofiltration, and of course my return pump, all that. That's it.
Ray, comments?
Well, as my sumps are just tanks with no dividers in them, and basically they're there for the extra volume, it's not quite the same. When I have a skimmer on the tank, the skimmer is external, and the pump that feeds the skimmer is in there, and the return goes back into the tank itself. And the biological filter, which for me is live rock, that's all in the sump, and that's all it is. It's my KISS principle.
Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so building on what they just said and what CoraWorks said. CoraWorks said skimmer, heater, return pump. Technically, anything else is just frills and quality of life improvements. Okay, so agree. Skimmer
And I have
pump.
a flow through heater, so mine is not in my sump. I do have a heater and a chiller, and the heater is installed in the line between the sump and the tank, so the water flows through it. And my chiller, it pumps. There's a hose that brings it into the chiller and a hose that pumps it back into the sump. So I have that also, I guess you could say. I forgot about that.
Okay, so go ahead.
Chiller is just central air.
I was gonna say, hey, time out. Okay, so what I would say is there are different ways of doing things. What CoraWorks said is correct, but then he said, "But I don't keep seahorses," and then said, "I trust your judgment. We know you're awesome, CoraWorks." Truth. But when he said heater, I kind of went, because I don't have heaters in any of my tanks. It does depend on where you live. In Holly's case, she has really, really hot days and really, really cold days. And so she has to have chiller and heater. I would say the main things to remember with keeping seahorses is keep the temperature below 74 degrees. So if you're in an area where you don't need a heater, I mean, that like a heater might not make sense at all, right? In fact, I would say in most areas you would worry more about a chiller for a seahorse tank because you want to keep it cooler, right? So I would knock off the heater off that list, depending on where you live. If your tank's going to get to 50 degrees, you might need heater. But in my case, just like Ray, I use my central air. I don't have heaters in any of my tanks. If it does dip to, because my tanks usually run at about 71, 72. If it dips to 68, I don't worry a bit. Like that, I don't use heaters.
So what would you recommend, Kelly, as the lowest low temperature for a seahorse tank? Like how low would you let it?
You're going to have it at that low point.
I agree, but go ahead, Ray.
I've had the temperatures down low 60s, and for my abs tank in the basement, 58. I think.
So again, we're talking. It does depend on the species also, because abdominalis
down 64, 65, no problem.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. Mine gets down to like my lowest temps reach probably 65, 64, and they seem okay then. But I was just wondering at what temperature are they slow enough or that you don't want it to reach that temperature really?
I don't know.
And I would say, I don't think there's an actual answer to that question. You have to get to know your seahorses and play it by ear. But I would say one thing that Dan always said is you'd rather the temp go down than up, right?
Right.
And that gradual of anything isn't an emergency. So in my case, in my video where I have to treat seahorses because my temp spiked like 10 degrees and, you know, the seahorses got a bacterial infection and it was awful and I had to treat them. It was because my central air cut out and it was a very hot summer day and the tank went from 70 to 84 or something crazy, right? Like literally by the time I got home, it had raised over 10 degrees. That is not okay, right? But if your tank goes from 70 to 68 over the day, no, okay. You know,
Mine
they're
does
not going
that
to even,
every
it
day.
doesn't
Are you
matter.
kidding me?
Right. Mine does not, but I'm just saying it's nothing to freak out about. Now, if you're in a case where your tank is daily going from 70 to 78, that might be something that would concern me. Only because we've talked about repeatedly, the bacteria grows faster as the temp rises, right? So in that case, you might want to look into a chiller or fans or a method of keeping that area cooler so that the tank doesn't do those drastic swings. So we say keep it under 74 because the bacteria doesn't grow as fast and you know that just makes it safer for the seahorses. But when you're talking about these swings that don't happen to everyone, it depends on where you live, but just make sure they're gradual and not excessive, and especially not excessive going up, right? It's Cheryl used Cheryl the expert Cheryl that comes in here and used to come in here all the time told a story about having seahorses shipped to her and the tank got really so cold that like everything was like almost frozen and the seahorses were all lying at the bottom and she put them in a tank and
Babies, she was
gradually raised the temperature and they all came back to life and were fine. So again, just to repeat myself, I know I am, but you don't want to go up or down drastically, but slight increases in a day are not the end of the world. And you would rather go down than up. So I don't have an answer to your question, Holly. I would probably say, you know, if you're hitting 63, 62, you might want to consider, you
Yeah,
know,
I've
but I
never
would
seen
also
it
say,
get that low, but I've hit, I want to say the 65-ish. I
But
want
if
to
it
say
I
was
would also,
either a
really
day
low.
or so, I wouldn't be concerned.
yeah, I would say watch your seahorses, right?
Mhm.
Watch your seahorses.
Mhm.
But back to the original question. Now I've lost my train of thought. Dang it, I do this every time. But so the main thing with seahorses is to keep the temperature low, lower than 74 on average. Worry about dissolved organics and make sure you have the biological, chemical, and mechanical, especially mechanical filtration to deal with them. And learn your seahorses because every seahorse is different. So when you get them, you know, don't put your face in the tank, you know, don't have your face right up to the tank and, you know, scare the shit out of them, but learn their behaviors, learn how they react to certain situations. That way you'll know as things happen. Now back to Zen's question. Sorry, we went all the way around the block with that one. But for me, actually, before I say for me, I'm going to just again describe the two different scenarios. And there is not just A and B, but there's A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You
So
know,
many things
there's
you can do.
all these things in them. But the two, the A and the B, are completely artificial tank with every media in the sump, every filtration method in the sump, and then natural tank where everything's in the tank. You know, you've got rock, you got sand, you got all this. So there's many degrees in between, but I would say if you're talking about a completely artificial sump where everything's in the tank, you better make sure you got massive biological filtration. I don't care if it's rock, K1, Holly uses bio balls, Holly uses K1 also, and you know, you can do it with artificial means, absolutely. If you're talking natural, then you don't have to worry so much about biological filtration in the sump. You just have to worry about mechanical. So then you could go with the bigger skimmer you can put in there, right? You can go with extras like a Robert King chamber or
Mhm.
K1 media or whatever, but none of them. It's about making sure you have enough of each filtration method to compensate for the seahorses. So I really don't have an exact answer. Like you need
There's
exactly
so many
two
different
point.
ways to do it.
What? Well, I think there is an answer out there. Let me research
Mhm.
and get back to you because I know, like, if you say how much rock do you need for a reef tank, there's
Mhm.
answers out there. You need
Yeah,
2 pounds of rock per gallon or whatnot.
there
So let me
is.
look
Yeah.
at.
But
So let me look at.
that doesn't mean much unless you know the density of the rock. Because 2 pounds of
Mhm.
dense rock will not work as well as 2 pounds of lightweight rock.
Sure. So what I'm going to say is
And I
is
think
no.
it's area too. Because when I was setting mine up, I want to say it was something like they said 1/3 of the space or 2/3 of the space, something to that effect. It wasn't by weight, it was by volume of how much
Okay.
space it took in the tank. And that was a
Honestly,
long
I don't
time
care.
ago, but there is a formula
Honestly,
for that.
honestly, I don't care. What I'm saying is there is no formula because
Mhm,
there's different ways to do things.
mhm.
And when you're keeping seahorses, what you want to do is do as much as you can. All right.
Mhm.
So in my tanks, I use rock that I have, repurposed and make sure clean of pests. I use rock. I cycle the rock. I make sure that it's, providing bio filtration. I also use K1 and I love K1. And the reason is because it's so porous and it has so many benefits that it does what rock does like times 5 or whatever.
Mhm.
So I use both. I've got rock and I've got K1. So to answer your question, because I'm rambling on and on, in a sump or in the tank, you got to make sure you have enough of each media. I would suggest the biggest skimmer that you can fit in your tank. I mean it, or afford, make
Yeah.
sure it is at least 2 times the tank. And what I mean by that is if you have what did you say, a 60 gallon? I guess I put down the question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Mhm.
Here we go. So you have a 60 or 75-gallon tank. Oh God, you're going to make me math. So make sure that the skimmer is rated for 150 gallons plus, right? At least 20 or 2 times.
Well, when you
Um,
add the water volume to it, right? So it's 75 plus 60. Would that
yeah,
be right? When you're looking at the skimmer, it's the total water volume? Or
Yeah.
is it just,
again,
yeah. So that's what
it
Ray says.
is.
Yeah, it's the total water volume.
It is. I'm going to go back to my original statement. The more, the better. All
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
So
I
you're
have
looking
one
at
that's
it.
4
Wait, can I
times
finish?
my
Hey, hey,
water
hey, hey, hey.
volume, and it's not too much. I'll say that.
Cool. And what I was trying to get at is you've got a 60-gallon sump, but how high is the water level? How much water's really in there? It
Yeah,
is
it's
adding
only
water
60.
volume, but my personal advice would be to go 2 times the tank size, period. Yes,
Mhm.
everything they're saying is correct. I would still go 2 times the tank size. So 2 times the tank size skimmer. Then, depending on what you have in the tank, make sure you have enough biofiltration somewhere. So if you're doing artificial, you better have a lot of rock, a lot of something in the sump to compensate for nothing in the tank. If you do have rock or whatnot in the tank, even sand, whatever you decide to have, macros also count. Then I still would add backup in the tank because shit happens, things can happen in the tank. If you have that backup in the sump, then nothing will ever crash, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
personally recommend K1. Very easy to use, very easy to put together a 2 liter that you can stick in there. Don't need to buy anything but the K1. You can cycle it ahead of time, just
It's
like you
got
cycle
lots of
rock.
surface for the tiny size that it is, which really helps.
Yes. Yep. The only catch to K1 is that you have to keep it tumbling, right? The
Mhm.
whole point of K1 is that it knocks into each other and it knocks things off and then it repurposes it and like continues the cycle that really works well for biofiltration, but it has to keep bumping into each other and
Mhm.
tumbling. So the only catch to the K1 is you then have to have an air pump, right?
Airline for it.
So,
Question,
yep.
if
I'm
K1
never
is,
gonna finish my advice because
if
what?
K1 is small particulate matter and it's in circulation all the time, what's doing your nitrate where you need anaerobic bacteria?
So to be really honest with you, there's discussion. I know they say K1 doesn't work for nitrates. I know that's true. I personally like to use macros for the nitrates. Or something else is the point, right? So it could be just massive water changes. You didn't let me get past biological. All I said was for mechanical, have a huge ass skimmer, and use socks or something that collects the big pieces of stuff. For biological, depending on what you're using in the tank, make sure you have enough compensation in the sump. And even if you have it in the tank, add extra in the sump. So no, the K1 is not probably going to handle nitrates. That's why you need mechanical and possibly chemical filtration added. Totally agree, Ray. It's not going to do it. But so my advice again, big skimmer, depending on what you have in the tank, make sure you have the rock, K1, something biological, and a lot of it in the sump if you have nothing in the tank. If you have something in the tank, then anything you have in the sump is just backup. So a 2 liter of K1 tumbling is like amazing. And then the return pump, obviously. And then I personally put things like Purigen, carbon, whatever, into my socks so that as the water falls through the sock, it's going through that chemical filtration. Now that's just because my sump, like Ray said, doesn't have baffles. So I'm literally dealing with this open space. So there's no real spots to put particular things. But depending on your setup, you could set up an area for that kind of. I'm just saying, make sure you have biological, chemical, and mechanical. The other chemical slash biological that I use is the Robert King chamber, but I put that in the tank. It could be in the sump though. It's up to you. But that's how I play my tanks, right? I've done different methods. In my 65 gallon right now, it's an algae scrubber, huge ass skimmer, pump. That's it. But I also have rock in the tank, right? So I've got the rock doing the bio. I've got the algae scrubber doing the bio slash mechanical slash whatever you want to call it. And then I've got the skimmer doing mechanical. And then I don't think I use any chemical in that tank. I don't use any chemical media in that tank whatsoever. So it just depends on your setup. There is no like, this is the answer. But I would say just compensating for those three is the key. All right. I'm done rambling.
So I'm telling Bonnie, I just found she sent me her address back in August. So I forgot I had her address and not you.
Good.
But I have your shirt right here. Kelly sent it to me by accident. So I'll get it sent out later this week.
And you don't have to.
I forgot I even had the address.
You do not have to pay for it, Bonnie. You remember. You're good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, wait a minute.
I'll send it out for.
So I'm trying to figure out this comment question by Zen Ginger where she said the only two I've seen available, like through Alyssa and Biota, are Rectus and Whitey Eye.
Oh, somebody's looking for where to get seahorses. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think Cheryl was asking too.
Okay. So
can I ask another question there?
Okay.
Why do you pronounce it Whitey Eye? I look at it and it says White Eye.
I don't.
I've always heard it said Whitey Eye. I don't know. I always say it Whitey Eye, but I don't know why. I think because I've heard Chris say it. He calls him Whitey Eye.
Yeah. I don't know. Right?
And since he was raising him, I'm like, okay, he's probably right. But I don't know.
Hey, you guys got to remember, we are a community. We actually love each other. But, we're like brothers and sisters constantly. Like, how are you? Yeah. Okay. I don't know, Ray. I don't know, because that's
I'm
how I
just
heard
curious.
it pronounced. Okay. All right. Anyhow, honestly, I've never kept whitey eye or white eye, however you want to say it. I've never kept them. So Chris Carey would be the go-to for that question. I can pull him in here for sure. I can ask him to come and talk some more about it. I do believe that you're right that they are similar in their needs and, you know, like the temperatures to keep them in and such. What whitey eye, I'm going to say it my way, are much smaller than erectus, but not as small as dwarfs and whatever. And Shyla keeps them, right? So maybe she could answer. But I haven't seen other species available either, is the answer. But Alyssa is not the only resource. There are a
Did you
lot
hear
more
that?
people breeding seahorses. What?
I just searched it and then they said whitey eye on the pronunciation chart.
Oh, well, there you go. I feel so much better. No, but what I was going to say is there are different resources. That's why I want to get the STAM website done so that home breeders can connect with people looking for seahorses on the site. But currently, you know, there are other resources. There's Ocean Rider. There
Is Jen
and
outside?
there are home breeders, right? So I would recommend looking around in your local reef club. And on Facebook, people aren't allowed to sell seahorses, but you're allowed to say, I'm looking for seahorses. What, you know, I live in this area. Where would you recommend I go? And then on Messenger, people might contact you, right? Um, if you're a Zen Ginger or a Cheryl, then you just come to me and I'll find you seahorses for sure. I'll find you some from someone. And we can have the conversation about shipping and all that as we go. Neither of you are ready to get seahorses tomorrow. If the person who asked the question is, then just reach out to me on Messenger maybe, because yeah, it's just a case of we don't have enough commercial breeders. But Ocean Rider is an alternative. I have Ocean Rider seahorses. They're not bad. They're fine. I think wasn't Alyssa taking a break, or is she back?
She posted, she posted a thing on her site saying what's going on and everything. It was really sweet, actually. She made a really good post and said she's not going to be doing the larger seahorses again because
Okay.
if her life changes, you know, she's having a baby on the way, you know, her first,
Oh,
and has other things going on. She's continuing to do the dwarves and other stuff, but the raising of the fry of the larger species is just too labor intensive for her, and she can't really get help. She always did that herself, and she said she's
yeah.
just not going to be able to do that now because of her
That's
life.
what Dan faced.
So she does
That's what Dan faced.
actually work with other vendors that have them. So she does still offer them sometimes, but it's through people she knows, like for instance, Heather's friend and stuff that
Yep.
raises them. So you could probably contact her when you're ready and say, hey, do you know who has seahorses that
Yep.
that's reliable? And she could probably refer you to someone. Or
That's it. Right.
yeah, but she's not
So
doing them herself anymore.
but again, still a resource, right? For
Yeah,
sure, because
yeah,
she's
and
excellent.
most of us, I'd say, yeah, when you're ready, just put the word out, and the network of
We'll
people
know
who know
someone.
each other could say, "Hey, so and so has seahorses." So,
And if anyone has computer skills, help me finish this website. That way we can all do it in one place without Facebook breathing down our backs. It would be amazing. I'm so ready. I just can't find the time to get it done. So if you know anything or anyone who does computer stuff and coding, send them my way. All right. What else, guys? Can we talk Chris into moving to the US and breeding seahorses?
right?
Man, I would love that.
Wouldn't
I
that be
would
the
love
dream?
that.
Yeah.
All right. So Zen said, I considered leaving a small portion of the sump cut off to potentially add macros later. But as Ray always said, I'm going to start slow and not do too much until I'm confident with the basics. Right. Right. So I'm a big macro lover. You know that. I put them in the tank. But depending on the species, you might want them in the sump for sure. I need to finish that
Some
video
do a
too. But
refugium too, like a hang on back refugium where they have their macros and stuff. So yeah, there's different ways. They don't have to be in the sump.
the only thing that I would say if you're looking at doing a refugium with macros in your sump is to be careful about the way you set it up. So what I mean is in my reef tank, I had okay, here's the sump. So, and I'm trying to think, we're backwards, right? But I'm trying to think. So it would the water came down here, went into a sock, right? And then there was a baffle. And then in the middle, I had the return pump and the skimmer. No, I'm sorry, I had the skimmer. So sock, skimmer in the first baffle. Second baffle was the return pump. Third baffle was the refugium. The reason that made sense is because I had the water coming back over into the middle. And the reason that that made sense, and the reason I'm saying this is you have to be careful, and it's always going to be a thing that if you're doing things like Caulerpa or Cato, however you say it, or the main refugium algae, you do have to keep them in check, or the spores will travel to the tank and it'll be all over the tank, which isn't the end of the world. I love macros in a tank, but I'm just saying you have to be aware of that and set up to where it's not likely to happen. Because if you have your refugium and then return pump, anything that happens in that refugium is going up into the tank,
Gonna
if that
go
makes
into
sense.
the pump, yeah, because it'll get
Yeah,
into your pump and then get pumped into the
right.
yeah. I could see
So
that. What do you
just
think
thoughts
of
for
the hang on back ones? That's what I usually see is where people have a refugium that hangs onto the back of their tank and water comes in and out. Have you used that kind? Like, what do you think of that?
I have not used that kind. And same thing said, like if the water's going in and coming out, if anything dies, spores get released, whatever,
Then
it's
it can
probably going to
come
end up
right
in your
back
tank.
in the tank.
But I've not used it, so I can't say
Yeah.
that for sure. I don't know. In Zen's case, she does have a sump, and she said, not sure if I need to add those first and make sure they acclimate properly also, as to not have a DO spike in the tank if they don't do well with the ponies in there already. So I'll tell you two answers. Cheryl would say, and I mean Cheryl the expert, Cheryl would say, quarantine them. That's it. All you got to do is set up a small 10-gallon tank, whatever, put the macros in with salt water, add a light, and throw some food in now and then. You don't even have to really worry about cleanup. Let it decay. Let it decay because let the organics build up. That's what feeds the macros, so to speak. And that's what would bring out any pests, right? So, like if there's aptasia or hydroids, like I just experienced, or whatever, if you put it into a quarantine tank, you need the light for the macro to grow, and you need to feed it, leftover food or whatever, so that the pests come out. But then you can be proactive. That is the correct answer. That is the correct answer.
Mhm.
If you don't want to do it that way, or for whatever reason you can't, or you've already added them or whatever, then I've never acclimated macros or worried about any of that. When I have had to add macros directly to a tank instead of quarantining, which is the answer again, I rinse the species that are rinsable. And the only species that aren't rinsable are the ones that likely wouldn't have pests anyways, because like the halamina that are not dragon's breath, but I mean like it's called rose, where it's literally no stems, no branches. It's just like a gelatin kind of,
Mhm.
soft. I am doing this. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a
Yeah.
flowy nowhere for anything to grow on or attach to, kind
Would
of
it
thing. You
help
can't
to
even
give
attach to the
them
tank.
a saltwater rinse at all? Because I mean, I imagine like some of them, like you said, couldn't withstand the freshwater rinse, but like all of them, could you swish them around in salt water, and does that help at all, or that really doesn't do anything?
You could, but no, I don't feel like that. The reason for the freshwater rinse is because
It'll kill
it
the
can
stuff
kill,
that can't stand the fresh water, that type of thing.
whereas the macros will sustain it. Most
Mhm.
macros will sustain it.
That's
Um, right. So,
tricky.
but I need, if you have a question about a specific macro, if I've kept it, I'll tell you, because I
Mhm.
know I've lost some. I've gone through it all. But I would say quarantining is the answer if you have the time and you're able to get your macros now. Set up a 10-gallon. Let it get dirty, man. I mean, feed it. Keep the light on. 9, 10, 12 hours a day, whatever. Let those pretty beautiful macros grow, and make sure there's no pests in them. And then once they're healthy and used to the way you do water, meaning your tank, the salt water, they've been through shipping, all that's over, then you don't have any fears of adding them to a refugium or a tank, right? Because
Mhm.
there's not a good chance of them dying and going whatever. But all right, Ray's doggy's coming to visit. And then I can get with you on the side too. I was going to say, like, if you have specific questions about macros, I really want to finish that video. Time in the day, guys, time
Yeah.
in the day. But if you have a specific one you're asking about, I can absolutely tell you. But yeah, the answer is quarantine the macros,
Mhm.
feed them, make sure they're healthy, make sure they'll grow in your conditions, your temperature, everything like that. But I've also added them directly to a tank, obviously. And the other catch is you're going to know if they're dying off, if they're not doing well. So
Mhm.
in the mix of the macros I got for this tank, there was a Calerpa, and it did start getting lighter and lighter and whiter and whiter. And I pulled it because I knew it was not doing well. It was going to die and it was going to release spores. So I just pulled it. We don't need that macro. But yeah, just I would say observation, but quarantine is the answer. All right, we'll leave it there. All right, Ray, anything else you need to say?
Nope.
All right, we've gone on a 2-hour mark again. I keep swearing to everybody I'm going to be done in 1 hour this week. 1 hour, and then we talk for 2. I know I ramble. It's my fault, but I want to be here. I love talking to you guys. So glad you guys who came, and we're going to get serious about the channel when I get back from Italy. We're going to do the guest series. We're going to do the Robert King episode. We've got all sorts of plans. But for tonight, I'm going to have to say Happy Wine Wednesday, guys. Gotta go. But I appreciate everybody who came. And Zen, I can't wait for you to set up. Can't
Did you
wait.
ever tell us what wine you were drinking tonight?
I switched halfway through, and I
Oh,
don't have my Seahorse wine glass. I was sipping on Chardonnay. Now I got Pinot Noir. I'm actually glad you asked, Ray, because I think I've said this before, but this stuff, acronym Pinot Noir, is so good. It's like it's just so good. Like
Mhm.
I like dry wines, but I don't like dry wines that you take a drink and then you're like, like
Yeah.
the yeah. This stuff is not sweet. It's not fruity. It's not like foo-foo, but it's also not that, your mouth sticking together dry. It's perfect. I love acronym Pinot Noir. So cheers to that. But anyways, guys, let's say Happy Wine Wednesday, and we won't be back next week, but we will the following week, and my butt will be in Italy. I hope you guys will join me. I'll try to do some posts to advertise. Not that, me being in Italy
Sweet.
will affect you guys, but it'll still be
Well,
cool.
maybe find an aquarium in Italy if you're going to be in a big city that has seahorses. Maybe you could show us some seahorses in Italy.
Perfect idea, Holly. I love it. All right, I'll try to do that. But for tonight, guys, Happy Wine Wednesday. We
Good
will
night,
see
everyone.
you.